I want you to picture this. You're defending a castle. You've got guards on the walls, moats filled with gators, and alarms ready to blare. But here's the problem. Attackers don't all storm the front gate. Some dig tunnels, some bribe guards, while some fleeing flaming sheep over the wall. Some just walk right in with stolen keys. That's why MITRE ATT&CK exists. It's the hacker playbook. Every tactic, every dirty trick, every move attackers use is documented and organized so defenders can finally keep up. Governments use it, Fortune 500 companies use it, and if you're serious about cybersecurity, you should too. Welcome back to the No Bridge channel, where we talk about cybersecurity, technology, and self-improvement. I am your host, Jay, and today we're breaking down the MITRE ATT&CK framework, what it is, how it works, and how you can use it to level up your skills and see the game of cybersecurity the way professionals do. And stick around, because by the end of this, you'll not only understand how attackers think, you'll be able to explain it in a way that makes it sound like you've been in the game for more than 12 minutes. Alright, let's clear the air. MITRE ATT&CK isn't a tool. It's not some piece of software you install. It's a knowledge base. A giant library of everything hackers actually do once they get inside of a system. Think of it like a Pokédex for cyber attacks. Every time a hacker tries a new trick, MITRE researchers catch it, catalog it, and add it to the database with receipts. And here's what makes it so useful. It's not just theory. Every tactic, every technique in MITRE ATT&CK comes from real-world incidents, stuff seen in the wild. Stuff that broke into companies last year, last month, or even yesterday. So instead of guessing what an attacker might do, you've got an entire playbook laid out in a matrix. On one side, you have tactics, the attacker's goals, the why. On the other, you have techniques and sub-techniques, the actual method, the how. This is what makes MITRE ATT&CK so powerful. It turns cyber defense from I think we're covered to we know exactly how attackers move and we have a plan for it. Before MITRE ATT&CK, defenders were basically fighting blind. Vendors all had their own names for the same attack. One tool could call it credential dumping, while another could name it suspicious memory access. And some poor SOC analyst was stuck trying to connect the dots at 2 a.m. It was chaos. Everyone describing the same moves but in different ways. There was no common language. MITRE built the attack framework to fix that, to give defenders, red teamers, intel folks, and even executives a shared dictionary of how attacks actually happen. Now, instead of arguing about what to call it, you can map it. These attacks are well documented and they're all standardized in this framework. They're organized and they're searchable. This common language changed the game. Blue teams can now write better detections. Red teams could plan simulations, while intel folks can keep track of these threat groups. And everyone was speaking from the same playbook. This is why MITRE ATT&CK isn't just useful, it's essential. It was chaos. Now it's in one playbook and everyone is aligned. Alright, so how does this actually work? MITRE ATT&CK is laid out in a giant matrix. It's a spreadsheet that's actually useful. Yes, I know, very rare. Across the top, you've got 14 tactics, the big picture goal attackers are trying to achieve. Stuff like initial access, persistence, privilege escalation, and exfiltration. These are the why. Down the columns, under each tactic are techniques, the specific moves attackers use to get the job done. Phishing emails, credential dumping, remote services, DLL injection, this is the how. And in some cases, techniques have sub-techniques, the extra flavor, like phishing splitting into email attachments, links, spear phishing via service. It's the same dish with different spice. It's clean, structured, and that organization is how everyone from SOC analysts to CISOs can actually use it. Because instead of drowning in the threat intel buzzword soup, you can point to a matrix and say, here's a tactic, that's the technique, here's how to defend it. Now when you first pull up the attack matrix, it looks like someone spilled Scrabble tiles across your screen. There's columns, there's codes, there's acronyms, it's alphabet soup with numbers. But don't panic. Each column is a tactic, each row under it is a technique. Click one and you get the good stuff. Description, examples, references, and even what threat groups have actually used it. Think of it like an interactive cheat sheet. Instead of guessing what an attacker might be doing, you can literally trace their footsteps. Say an attacker gets in with phishing. That's initial access. Then they dump LSAS to steal passwords. That's credential access. And when they start hopping across machines with RDP or past the hash, that's lateral movement. It's like watching a crime scene unfold. And the matrix is your map of every possible move the burglar could make. Once you learn to read it, that overwhelming wall of text turns into a blueprint for both red team and blue teams. It's a way to follow the attack in real time and know what's likely coming next. Alright y'all, we're gonna slow roast this one. Each tactic in the attack matrix deserves its own spotlight. Not just a quick mention, not just a checklist, a real breakdown. because these aren't random buzzwords. These are actual moves attackers make in the wild. And once you understand them, you can spot them, you can defend against them, and most importantly, you can speak cyber with confidence. Stay with me here. This framework will carry you through your entire cyber career. No matter the role, no matter the team, these concepts keep showing up. So let's break it down, one tactic at a time. Let's begin. Recon is where the game begins. Before attackers touch a single system, they're out there collecting dirt. They'll scrape LinkedIn for employee names, Google your company for one exposed dev subdomain. They'll run port scans to see what services are hanging wide open. They even lurk in job postings because we're hiring a Splunk admin, just told the attacker what tools you used. Recon is passive, it's patient, it's casing out the joint before the heist. And here's the kicker, most of the time, you'll never know what's happening because they're just gathering what's already out there. But every bit of recon makes the actual attack sharper. The fish gets more convincing, the exploit hits the right target, the timing feels just right. If you're not managing your public footprint, attackers already are. Hackers don't just show up empty-handed. Before the break-in, they quietly build their toolbox, all the accounts, infrastructure, and malware they need once the attack goes live. Sometimes that means buying stolen credentials off the dark web, slipping into your environment with username and password that looks completely normal. Other times, it's registering fake domains that look just like your company's, setting the stage for a phishing campaign. Or they'll spin up a cloud server to host malware, ready to deliver payloads without raising suspicion. And if they're serious, they'll even code custom malware tailored to a specific target, fine-tuned for one job only. Think of it like a burglar stockpiling crowbars, lockpicks, and getaway cars weeks before the heist. By the time they knock on the digital door, the whole kit is prepped and polished, ready to roll. And here's the part defenders hate the most. Almost all of this happens outside your walls. By the time your SOC sees anything, the prep is done. The tools are sharpened, the attacker is already 10 steps ahead. Initial access. This is the first real break-in. All the recon, all the prep, it leads to this exact moment. Initial access is how attackers get their foothold inside your environment. It's the razor-thin line between outside and inside, and once they cross it, the game changes completely. Sometimes it's a phishing email with poison attachment that looks like an invoice. Someone clicks and suddenly attackers got a way in. Sometimes it's hammering an old VPN gateway you forgot to patch, slipping through a hole that should have been closed months ago. Other times, it doesn't take a clever trick at all, just logging in with valid credentials they bought off the dark web. No alarms, no alerts, because on paper, it looks like a normal employee login. Think of this stage as the front door moment. Sometimes they pick the lock with an exploit, and sometimes they just stroll right in using a spare key you left under the mat. And once they're in, everything becomes possible. Persistence, escalation, lateral movement, it all starts here. Without initial access, the rest of the attack doesn't exist. But with it, they've planted a flag in your network, and the dominoes are ready to fall. Now that the attacker's in, it's time to actually make something happen. This stage is called execution. The moment the malicious code comes live and starts doing work on behalf of the intruder. It's the shift from just being inside the building to plugging in their gear and running the show. Sometimes it's as simple as a PowerShell script quietly pulling down more tools from the internet. Just one line of code, and now the attacker's arsenal expands. Other times, it's hiding a malicious macro inside of an Excel file. The victim thinks they're opening a harmless spreadsheet, and instead, they've just unleashed the next stage of the attack. And of course, there's a classic approach, dropping malware directly onto a system. A remote access Trojan, a keylogger, a backdoor, whatever flavor they choose. It's now active, waiting for commands. Execution is the moment an attacker turns from an intruder to an operator. They're no longer just standing in the lobby looking around. They've booted up their own software inside your walls. And here's the dangerous twist. A lot of execution looks exactly like normal admin work. Sysadmins also run PowerShell. Developers also use scripts. That's why detecting execution isn't just about spotting a command or a process, it's about context. Who ran it? When did it run? Does it fit a pattern that should be happening in your environment? Because on the surface, it might just look like another script. But underneath, it could be the first domino tipping toward a full-blown breach. Getting in is one thing, staying in is another. That's where persistence comes in. The attacker's way of making sure a reboot, a password reset, or even a quick IT cleanup doesn't actually kick them out. Think about it. If a hacker spends days, weeks, or even months just to get inside your environment, they're not about to risk losing it all because someone restarts a laptop. Persistence is their insurance policy. They might create a new user account that looks completely legitimate, blending into your org chart like they've been there all along. They might add hidden tasks that automatically run at startup, calling home in the dead of the night when nobody's watching. Or they'll disguise malicious code as a service that looks routine, something with a boring IT sounding name that no one will question. Persistence is a squatter in your digital house. You change the locks on your front door, they're already in the basement. You reset credentials, they've got a hidden back entrance. You reboot the system, they spring back to life. And here's the really insidious part. Persistence often doesn't look flashy. It's not the ransomware screen screaming for Bitcoin. It's quiet, boring, and forgettable, which makes it perfect. While defenders are watching for alerts, big, obvious threats, the attacker's foothold just sits quietly responding. Without persistence, attackers are guests. With persistence, they're tenants. And once they've unpacked their bags in your system, getting them out isn't cleanup, it's eviction. Breaking in as a regular user is nice, but attackers don't break in networks just to poke around with the same access as an intern. They want the master keys. They want admin. They want God mode. That's what privilege escalation is all about. Climbing from low-level access to the highest level of controls. Maybe they exploit a buggy driver or a vulnerable piece of software to break out of restrictions. Maybe they hijack a misconfigured service that's running with system privileges. Or maybe they just wait for someone with elevated access to slip up, leaving their laptop unlocked, reusing weak password, or reconnecting to a machine that the attacker already controls. Whatever the method, the outcome is the same. The attacker goes from being limited by what a single account can do to calling the shots across the entire system. It's like sneaking into a concert with a fake ticket. You're in, but you're stuck with cheap seats. Privilege escalation is finding your way to the backstage, grabbing the mic, and telling the crowd what's gonna happen next. And here's why this stage is so dangerous. Once an attacker has those elevated privileges, every door opens. Privilege escalation is the great unlock. It's the tipping point where an attacker shifts from being an annoyance to being a full-blown crisis. Privilege escalation is hackers leveling up, from basic user to admin, from fake ticket to backstage pass. Once they've got it, every door is open. All right, now the attacker's in. Maybe even level up to admin, but there's still one big problem. Security tools, antivirus, EDR, logging, SOC analysts staring at dashboards wired up on coffee at 2 a.m. Yes, we out here. Defense evasion is how attackers dodge all that. It's not just sneaky, it's survival. They might disable antivirus outright, pulling the plug before the system even knows what hit it. Or they may clear logs so there's no evidence of what they did. It's like wiping fingerprints off a crime scene. Some get fancier, disguising malicious scripts so they look like boring gibberish, or hiding code in normal processes like Word, Explorer, or even Calculator. Yeah, imagine Calculator secretly being in a hacker's getaway car. Think of it like a burglar putting on a janitor's uniform. They're still robbing the place, but now they're pushing a mop around so no one questions them. The best defense evasion doesn't look like anything at all. It looks routine, ordinary, and forgettable, which is why analysts have to train their eyes for the subtle stuff. The log that shouldn't be missing, the process that shouldn't be running at 3 a.m., the admin tool doing something no admin asked it to do. Defense evasion is where attackers flex their creativity. It's part stealth, part improv comedy. They'll bend the rules of the system until security doesn't know what's real and what's fake. And the longer they keep up with the disguise, the deeper they can get. Because once the alarms start blaring, the game is over. But if you can make the alarms never go off, that's a hacker's dream. If you really want to move through a network like you own the place, you're gonna need keys. That's what credential access is all about. Stealing usernames, passwords, tokens, and hashes. Sometimes hackers dump memory from LSAS. That's basically Windows keeping your passwords in a little jar, and the hacker just reaches in and grabs a handful. Other times, they'll drop a keylogger that records every stroke you type. And of course, there's phishing, the good old-fashioned trick that makes you hand over the keys without realizing it. Here's the scary part. Once they've got valid credentials, the attacker stops looking like an intruder and starts looking like an actual employee. It's the difference between someone breaking into your house through the window versus walking through the front door with a copy of your key. Credential theft is the golden ticket. With the right username and password, an attacker can unlock accounts, access critical systems, and move through the network with way less noise. It's like skipping the velvet rope and heading straight for the VIP lounge. And defenders hate this stage because it's not malware you can just scan for, it's not some weird process you can kill, it's legitimate credentials. The attacker just happens to be the one that holds them. That's why credential access is so dangerous, because once the wrong hands are holding the right keys, everything else becomes a lot harder to stop. Now that the hacker's inside, maybe even holding valid credentials, it's time to start exploring. This stage is called Discovery, and it's basically the hacker playing a house hunter, corporate edition. They're poking around to see what's there, which machines are online, who logged in, where's the crown jewels. They might run built-in commands to map the network, list user accounts, or find open shares. Sometimes they query Active Directory to figure out who the admins are. Other times, they just browse through folders looking for anything juicy, like spreadsheets full of passwords or backup configs sitting on a shared drive. Discovery is the hacker getting the lay of the land. It's not smashing and grabbing, it's walking through the digital hallways, figuring out where the cameras are and making a plan. And the wild part is, a lot of these actions look like normal IT activity. Admins run the same commands, scripts query the same data. That's what makes discovery so sneaky. It's the attacker wearing a perfectly normal face while taking detailed notes behind your back. Think of it like a thief who breaks into your house, but instead of stealing your TV right away, they open all the drawers and closets first. They want to know where you hide the safe, when you leave for work, and how often the dog walker shows up. Because the more they know, the better the rest of the attack will go. All right, now the attacker has their foot in the door, but one machine isn't enough. This is where lateral movement comes in. Think of it like the moment in a heist movie where the crew slips out of the lobby and into the staff-only area. They want access to the whole building. Lateral movement is all about spreading. That could mean hopping from one workstation to another using stolen credentials. It could mean abusing RDP, remote desktop protocol, to slide across the network, or using techniques like pass the hash to impersonate legitimate users and quietly unlock new doors. If they manage to compromise an account with admin rights, it's game over. They can move almost anywhere, almost anytime. From the SOC's perspective, this is one of the trickiest phases to catch. Why? Because employees move laterally too. IT staff RDP into boxes, developers log into multiple servers, help desk techs use shared accounts. The attacker blends right in, like a thief in a janitor's uniform holding the master key. Lateral movement is patient and strategic. The attacker isn't rushing. They're building a map of your entire environment, one unlocked door at a time. And once they spread far enough, they're ready for the real prize. Now we're getting to the shopping spree part of the attack. This stage is called collection. It's exactly what it sounds like. Attackers gathering up all the juicy data they came for. Picture a burglar inside of a mansion. They're not just running around screaming, I made it in, I made it in. Nah, they're calmly opening drawers, stuffing jewelry in their bag, maybe even grabbing the TV on the way out. In cyber terms, collection means pulling documents, databases, emails, and files from systems they've compromised. This could be spreadsheets full of customer data, CEO email inboxes, or even screenshots of sensitive dashboards. If it looks valuable, they'll scoop it up. But it's not just random snatching. Sophisticated attackers organize their loot. They'll zip it, encrypt it, and stage it in a neat little package so it's easier to smuggle out later. Some even script the whole process, like a burglar bringing their own shopping cart. Collection can happen quietly over days or even weeks. They don't need to rush, because as long as they blend in, nobody notices that hundreds of files are being quietly copied behind the scenes. From your side, this is a nightmare. File transfers, queries, and downloads, those all happen during normal business hours too. So the attacker looks like they're just another employee grabbing a report, until you realize the employee just made off with an entire file share. All right, the hacker's inside your house. They've already cracked the door, maybe even rummaged through a few rooms, but now they need a way to call home. That's what command and control, or C2, is all about. This is the hacker's remote control. It's the chat line. It's the secret walkie-talkie to their own systems. Without it, they're stuck. They can't steer the attack, they can't move deeper, they can't pull data out. Here's how it usually works. The malware sitting on your computer reaches out to some external server the attacker controls. It could look like normal HTTPS request, just another browsing ping on the site. Sometimes it's even disguised as DNS traffic, which is usually boring as hell for the monitor. But underneath, that's the attacker saying, hey boss, I'm in, what do you want me to do? Think of it like a burglar inside your office texting updates to their getaway driver. The wild part is defenders are often looking right at it and don't even realize it, because C2 blends in. It hides in your everyday traffic using cloud services, social media posts, and even Slack messages. Sometimes hackers literally hide their commands in cat memes. Your firewall doesn't care about Garfield hates Mondays, it just sees an image request. So when you hear C2, picture the hacker's hotline. It's how they stay in control, how they issue orders, and how they turn one compromised machine into a full-blown operation. Cut the C2 link, and you've basically left them stranded in enemy territory with no way home. This is the big heist moment. Everything they've stolen, the documents, the spreadsheets, the emails, it all has to make it out of your network. That's exfiltration. Think of a burglar sneaking stolen jewelry out of a house. Do they shove it in a backpack? Do they toss out the window to an accomplice? Or maybe do they walk out the front door like they own the place? Hackers do the same thing digitally. They might upload stolen data to a cloud storage service that looks like another user is saving it to their Google Drive. They might drip it out slowly over encrypted channels so it looks like normal internet traffic. Or, if they're bold, they'll compress terabytes of data into one big archive and ship it off all at once. And here's where defenders sweat. Most organizations don't notice it until it's too late. A sudden spike in traffic leaving the network, or an odd connection to sketchy server overseas, these are red flags, but by then the data could already be gone. The worst part is hackers don't always keep it subtle. Ransomware crews sometimes throw files into the cloud and then send you a ransom note saying, we have your data, pay up. If initial access was breaking in and collection was filling bags, Exfiltration is the actual getaway car pulling off with the loot. Once it's out of your walls, the damage is done. This is the end game, the big, loud, messy finale. Impact is where attackers stop being sneaky and start breaking things. All that prep, all that access, all that lateral movement wasn't just for fun. This is when they decide what kind of pain to inflict. It could be data destruction, where terabytes vanish in seconds and years of work is gone forever. It could be ransomware, locking up your entire operation until you pay up in Bitcoin. It could be sabotage, flipping the switch on critical infrastructure like power grids, hospitals, pipelines, real world consequences, not just a bad day in IT. Sometimes the goal isn't even destruction, it's making a point. Hacktivists might just want to deface your website, plastering it with slogans to embarrass you. Nation state actors might leave subtle logic bombs, code that triggers months later like a time-delayed landmine. By the time you hit impact, it's already too late. This is the loud part of the attack, the fireworks. The moment the burglar doesn't even care about being stealthy anymore. They've already got what they need. And for defenders, this is the nightmare scenario. Everything before this, recon, phishing, persistence, these were the warnings. But the impact, that's where your board, your customers, and the news cycles will remember. You will be in the headlines titled "Company Shuts Down After Ransomware Attack." Impact is what makes the front page. Impact is what costs millions. Impact is why MITRE ATT&CK exists in the first place. MITRE ATT&CK isn't just a framework, it's a language. It's how cyber professionals talk to each other. SOC analysts, threat hunters, red teamers, CISOs, they all use the attack framework as a common map. In an interview, mapping your projects to MITRE ATT&CK shows you understand the bigger picture. On the job, it helps you brief leadership clearly, align detections with real threats, and plan smarter defenses. MITRE ATT&CK is the Rosetta Stone of cybersecurity. Learn it and you can translate chaos into strategy, noise into patterns, alerts into stories. And that's how you stop sounding like a beginner and start sounding like a professional. So that is the entire attack matrix, from recon to impact, every trick, every tactic, every move attackers make. And now you've got a map. Because in cybersecurity, it's not just about knowing the tools or memorizing the buzzwords, it's about speaking the language. And MITRE ATT&CK is the dictionary. Learn it, use it, speak it, and you'll never sound lost in this field again. Thank you for watching.